Welcome back. Today we're looking at a script for a political video titled Leftists Label Jews as Nazis while supporting actual Nazis.
It's a pretty high-voltage topic.
It is. The script argues that modern progressives are hypocritically using the term Nazi while allying with anti-Semitic ideologies.
A red-green alliance, right?
That's the one. So let's see if the writing can match that intensity.
Let's do it.
Okay, first thing, the opening impact is significantly diluted by all of this procedural meta-commentary about the video itself.
I see that right at the top. The speaker spends, the first minute or so?
A full minute, yeah.
Talking to the audience about the video itself. Things like, this will likely be one of my shortest videos.
Probably going to be like 15 or 20 minutes.
Right. And then he says, we're here now. I have been looking for a way to frame this conversation.
Exactly. And the weakness here is that it just kills the momentum. You're delaying the core argument.
You risk losing people.
You do. In this kind of commentary, you're fighting for every second of attention. When you talk about the runtime or how you were looking for a frame, you're asking the viewer to just wait around.
I want to push back on that for a second, though.
Okay.
Isn't that just part of the YouTube style? That sort of vlog-like authenticity?
I see what you mean.
When he says, I've been looking for a way to frame this, it feels honest, like he's bringing us into his process. Doesn't that build some rapport?
It does. It builds rapport, but at what cost? I'd argue it costs you authority.
Okay.
And for a topic this serious, accusing a political movement of supporting Nazism, rapport isn't the main currency. Urgency is.
So if the title is that inflammatory, you need to deliver on it immediately.
Immediately. You don't want to hear about the file length. It almost signals a lack of confidence, like he's apologizing for taking up your time before he's even said anything.
I see. So it's a mismatch between the gravity of the topic and the casualness of the opening.
Precisely. It's like a firefighter showing up to a 5-alarm fire and talking about how hard it was to find parking.
Yeah, okay. Put out the fire. I get it.
So the suggestion is really simple. Just eliminate that warm-up tatter. Launch directly into the paradox.
Trust the content to stand on its own.
Yes. For a concrete example, just cut the lines, this will likely be one of my shortest videos. So, we're here now.
Gone.
And instead, he should open immediately with that high contrast image he uses later.
You mean the tank top line?
That's the one. Just listen to the difference. Option A is, I'm looking for a frame. Option B is, isn't it interesting how the very same people who labeled Donald Trump as a Nazi are walking around with Protect the Palestinians tank tops?
Yeah, okay. Option B definitely punches harder. It creates an immediate visual.
It sets the stakes right away. It forces the viewer to confront that hypocrisy from second one.
And if not that, he could just start with the whole red-green alliance thesis.
Absolutely. Just get to the meat. It totally changes the energy from, hey guys, welcome back, to we need to talk about a crisis.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. What's next?
Okay, let's move to this second critique. This one is about the section on Marxism.
Ah, yeah. I remember this.
The credibility of his whole argument about Marxist strategy gets undermined by this detour into personal attacks on Karl Marx.
The hygiene stuff.
The hygiene, his family life. Yeah, this speaker is breaking down the ideology, but then he pivots to talking about how Marx was miserable, how he didn't shower.
There's that line, who would have stunk it?
Right, a play on who would have thunk it. And then he gets into the really tragic stuff about his children.
Yeah.
And the weakness is just that. Well, it feels petty. It's unrelated to the political argument. It shifts the whole tone from this serious geopolitical analysis to like a playground insult session.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here again.
Please?
Isn't mockery a valid tool in politics? Alinsky said it himself, right? Ridicule is man's most potent weapon.
It can be.
If Marx is held up as this kind of god by the left, isn't dragging him down to earth, showing he was a guy who wouldn't even shower, a way to, demythologize him? Plus, that stunk it line is kind of funny. It adds some levity.
It does add levity, yes. But the real question is, does it add persuasion? The goal here should be to arm your viewers with arguments or to convince someone on the fence. And if your main argument against Marxism is the founders smelled bad, you sound like you don't actually understand the economic theory.
So it gives your opponent an easy out.
A very easy out. They can just say, oh, you're attacking the man because you can't attack the ideas.
And it's a classic ad hominem.
Exactly. It makes the speaker seem bitter, not smart. A critique of a dangerous ideology shouldn't hinge on body odor.
Okay, that's a fair point. So the suggestion.
Focus strictly on the ideas and the consequences of the ideology, not the personal failings, unless, and this is a key unless, those failings directly prove a flaw in the economic theory.
Right, so for a concrete example, just cut the whole section.
Yep, turns out that he didn't like to shower. Who would have stunk it? Just remove it. It's a cheap shot that costs credibility.
But you can still attack Marx the man, can't you? Just not his hygiene?
Of course, but it has to connect to the philosophy. So instead of mocking his hygiene, expand on that Reagan quote that's in the notes.
The one about?
The one who reads Karl Marx is a Marxist. The one who understands Karl Marx is an anti-communist. That's a strong intellectual anchor. Use that.
And I suppose you could pivot the miserable life point instead of just laughing.
You connect it to the destabilization tactics he mentions later.
Frame it as Marx was miserable, and he created a system that basically exports that misery onto society.
Now that is a much more formidable argument. It changes the narrative from Marx was a gross guy to Marxism is a projection of internal chaos onto the world.
A psychological, not a hygiene.
Exactly. It just hits so much harder. It elevates the entire discourse.
Okay, I'm sold. Let's move on.
The third point, this is a big one, about the current protests. The really powerful analysis of the slogan, from the river to the sea.
Which is very strong.
Very. But it's weakened because it's surrounded by these broad generalizations about the protesters' work ethic.
Yeah, I noticed this. He does this great deep dive into the geography, Jordan River, Mediterranean Sea, and explains the genocidal meaning of it. It's chilling.
It is.
But then right next to that, he's calling the protesters lazy, saying they're not willing to get a job, or that they're all sponsored by Soros.
And the weakness there is that those generalizations let your opponents dismiss the whole thing. They can ignore the valid analysis of the slogan and just call it a rant against lazy youth.
It sounds like a get off my lawn moment.
It does. It actually dilutes the terror of the slogan.
But aren't a lot of them unemployed? Looking at the footage, a lot of them are students or people without jobs sitting in tents. It feels like an accurate observation. Why is pointing that out a weakness?
Because lazy implies harmless. If I tell you a group of lazy people are outside your house, you might be annoyed, but you're not scared. If I tell you a group of genocidal revolutionaries are outside your house, you lock the door.
So by calling them lazy, he's undercutting his own argument about the seriousness of the threat.
He's disarming his own warning, exactly. If they're lazy, they'll go home when it gets cold. But he later points out that they're willing to stand in the freezing cold. That's not laziness.
That's zealotry.
That's zealotry, and zealotry is dangerous. Laziness is just annoying.
That's a really sharp distinction. Okay, so the suggestion is to isolate the analysis of the slogan, make that the centerpiece.
Let it stand on its own, and treat the protesters as serious, dangerous political actors, not just lazy kids. That actually heightens the threat level he's trying to convey.
So concretely, cut the tangent about technically there's a level of laziness still in there.
Just get rid of it. It's a distraction.
And instead?
Instead, expand on the geography. Really map out what complete annihilation and eradication of all the people in between looks like on the ground. Force the listener to confront the literal, bloody meaning of that phrase.
And then you can replace the lazy narrative with the active threat one.
Yes, frame their dedication as misguided zealotry. Say something like, these people are so committed to this dangerous ideology that they will freeze in the cold for it.
That makes the audience respect the threat.
It shifts the viewer from rolling their eyes to sitting up straight. It's a shift from dismissing the enemy to analyzing the enemy.
Which leads us perfectly into the last major point, I think.
It does. It's about the war of words. The concept is introduced pretty effectively, but it needs stronger connective tissue. It needs to link the historical definition of Zionism with the modern accusation of Nazism more clearly.
Okay, so the script is juggling a lot of heavy terms here. We've got Zionism, which he defines as buying back ancestral land.
Right.
Then the war of words, which is this Marxist strategy. And then the red-green alliance of communists and jihadists.
Yeah, and the argument from the notes is that the causal link between redefining the words and the political alliance is a bit scattered. The listener has to work too hard to connect the dots.
He defines Zionism here, then jumps to the alliance, then jumps back to the war of words.
Exactly.
Is there a risk, though, of over-explaining it? If you tell the audience Zionism means X, and then you say they call it Y, can't people figure out that's a lie? Do we need to hold their hand through it?
In an argument this complex, I think you do, yes. Because that red-green alliance is inherently contradictory.
Communists and jihadists, they should hate each other.
One is godless, the other's a theocracy. The audience is probably thinking, wait, why are they working together? The answer is the war of words.
So if you don't explicitly state that the redefinition of language is the glue holding them together,
The audience might miss the mechanism entirely. The war of words isn't just a theme in this script, it's the explanation for the whole paradox.
I see. It's the how.
It's the how. So the suggestion is to explicitly thread that concept through all the definition. Show that redefining Zionism as racism or colonialism is the weapon that allows the left to ally with jihadists in the first place.
Okay, so how would that sound? Give me a concrete example.
You need to bridge the gap between the Zionism definition and the Nazi label. The speaker could say something like, because they cannot win on facts, they have to redefine indigenous land ownership, which is Zionism, as colonialism, just to justify their alliance.
So you make it a clear cause and effect relationship.
Right. And then when he discusses the Red-Green Alliance, he should reference the war of words again.
Something like,
The communists and jihadists have nothing in common except a shared enemy, and they use the same redefined vocabulary to mask their contradictions.
I like that. That ties everything back to his point about destabilization. They destabilize language to destabilize society.
It turns the script from a list of angry observations into a unified theory of the conflict. It finally answers the question in the video's title, how can they call Jews Nazis while supporting actual Nazis?
Answer, because they've changed what the words mean.
Exactly. It's the skeleton key that unlocks the whole argument. Without it, it's just a bunch of points. With it, it's a revelation. It creates that aha moment.
Okay, so looking at the big picture here, we're taking a script that has all the right ingredients, the passion, the energy, and we're just tightening the screws on the logic.
The raw material is absolutely there. The passion is obvious. But to recap our actionable takeaways for the author, first, cut that meta-commentary intro.
Start with the tank top, not the time check.
Exactly. Second, remove the ad hominem attacks on Marxist hygiene. It might get a chuckle from the choir, but it loses the debate.
Maintain the intellectual high ground.
Third, strip away the generalizations about protesters being lazy. It makes them sound harmless when they're not. Frame them as dangerous zealots to really drive home the urgency.
And finally, tightly weave that war of words theme through everything. Don't just define the terms, show how the redefinition is the weapon.
The weapon that makes the whole Red-Green Alliance possible.
These changes don't just make the script better, they make the argument, well, almost bulletproof. It moves from a rant to a weaponized piece of commentary.
And that's the goal. We'd love for the listener to take these notes, make the changes, and submit their work back in for more feedback.
Absolutely. It's a really strong topic. And with this kind of polish, it could be a definitive video on the subject.
That's it for this critique. Thanks for listening, and keep pushing your work to be sharper, deeper, and more impactful.
We'll see you next time.